the backdrop of our connection.
There you go.
Um, I remember initially connecting with you. I think you're familiar with who is it that's in my connection circle. I think you're familiar with the people in Des Moines, the people
In Dubuque as
and
well.
obviously the Butte. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had some friends and colleagues there. I'm in the Des Moines area, but I lived in Dubuque for about 10 years.
Yep.
And I think I got pseudo recruited at one point to be a therapist. Um, I don't know who reached out to me.
I think it was probably me.
Was it?
And
Okay.
yeah, because at that time we were looking at people and your name had come up. I think you, Anderson
Okay.
and
And second, and
Antonio, and stuff like that.
Antonio yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that, yeah, yeah, I got it.
So they had mentioned your name as a possibility.
Yeah,
So, and two of those are two guys that I have a lot of respect for, uh, what they are doing in the Dubuque community and beyond, actually, for all their work. So,
yeah, they're taking some leaps and bounds. I see them moving throughout the Dubuque leadership.
yep,
Antonio Mozon, I think he recently got promoted into some different things. So,
yep,
um, so yeah, yeah,
yeah.
we got some sort of contact, and you're familiar with some newer friends of mine in Des Moines because I've been here for probably about 5 years in Des Moines. So I still consider
Okay.
myself relatively new. There's a school counselor out this way that I think I forget his name off the top of my head, but I saw you
Oh,
guys in connect.
yep. And the name is escaping me for this moment here, but yes, he is. I know we follow each other on LinkedIn, so forth. Have conversed, messaging back and forth, so to speak. So, boy, I'm gonna think about it here in a minute. Michael Dean.
Michael Dean, yeah. Yeah,
There
I
you go.
interviewed him a while back ago too, but we stayed in contact a while back ago. I probably should reach out to him, but anyway, we are here in live session. All this is recorded. Hello, so
Yes, love it.
but all that to say, it seems like you're an upstanding guy overall. This is our second interview. In general, um, what interested me probably about the last interview was concepts related to spirituality because we are both men of faith. Um, and while we before we get too far into this conversation, just for the sake of the audience, just let the audience know a little bit more about you, where you're at uh, right now, and then I'll proceed to go into questions.
Sure, not a problem. Well, I spent my career in higher education. I was an instructor. I was actually a college football coach, and some roles in administration. I finished my career though with the role of basically dean of students at the University of Dubuque. I was kind of overseeing student life and all the aspects thereof. Sat
Okay.
on the president's cabinet there. And then when I retired, and I hate the word retirement because to me it's a foreign language that I do not wish to speak, I looked to repurpose my life and wanted to be able to share stories and lessons learned with folks. Along with, I wanted to make use of, I actually started my doctorate of ministry back when I was 60 years old. I finished it actually after I retired. And so I wanted to be able to put some things into place that I had learned through that process. And so I do some seminars and talks related to the synthesis of leadership concepts and the passion of Jesus. And to me, though, that last day of Jesus on earth in terms of being an earthly body, I think provides us with some great leadership concepts that we can use to help strengthen our foundations for leading ourselves and leading others. So I'm involved with that and involved with some community service activities, boards, commissions. I still actively involved with the Chris Norton Foundation. Of course, Chris is from the Des Moines area. originally from Bondurant, and he's a young man who played for me when I was a head football coach at Luther College, who had fractured C3, C4, but has done amazing things in terms of inspiring others. He's written 2 books. Our foundation runs a wheelchair camp. There's a documentary movie that was on his life named 7 Yards. So doing that and just kind of keep him busy, as best I can. But one of the beautiful things is I'm not working full time, so I can actually pick and choose a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good to be at that point in your life where you can not work as hard as most Americans find themselves working these days to keep up with inflation.
Exactly.
Well, to go into some questioning, particularly as it relates to faith and leadership, what's the most common misconception about faith that you have to correct in your leadership workshops?
It's a great question. I believe there's a lot of people think, oh, you're a faith person and everything's going to go well and so forth. I think, first of all, just because you have faith doesn't mean there's not going to be some hardships, doesn't mean you're not going to have some setbacks and challenges. The faith part allows you to see past that situation and find answers for beyond what you're dealing with. And that's, there's 2 Corinthians 5:7, walk by faith, not by sight. And so it doesn't eliminate, faith does not eliminate the hardships, but it gives you a process and a way of working through that. And so I think that's first and foremost. And I think that's a common, everybody thinks, well, I take this course on leadership development, or I do this workshop and it will become easy. No, it's not going to become easy. All the learning does is allows you to have a better way of navigating through those difficult times. And so when I look at faith there, that to me is crucial. The other aspect that comes, Larry, into that is what faith brings to me is actually when I think about Jesus, I'm going to just use the analogy. Jesus stood before the courts and is condemned to death. And yet he didn't flinch.
Yeah.
And so as we think about, as people think about great leaders, whether in our time or in historical fashion, each of those great leaders have a calmness in times of difficulty. The difficulty is still there. The challenge is still there. The setbacks are still there, but there's a calmness. And I believe that's one of the great aspects of faith. So you have that faith so you can, as I said, walk by faith, not by sight, see beyond the current situation, which brings about a calmness. And because when you're calm, you have, and you know this from your work, is when somebody is relaxing and is calm, you have a better chance of navigating the current situation.
Yeah, it's an aspect of emotional intelligence. Your ability to not get reactionary just because the environment is turbulent or the environment doesn't look the way you anticipate it to look. Well, with regards to tools and even beyond prayer, what do you think is the most practical tools that you teach leaders for managing their own stress and avoiding burnout?
I think when I look at tools, and I talk about the calmness all the time, but I think one of the things that is important is, one, go ahead and name it. Name what's happening. Just put it out there. Then the second part is to lament it. the lamenting is letting your emotions out and sharing those emotions out. And even if it's just lamenting to God above, you are now sharing those emotions. And then after you've named it, lament it, now incorporate others to help you get through it. And those others, yes, I fully, that's what prayer is about. Prayer is about naming what's going on in your life, lamenting about it, and then asking God for help. But also God works through so many people. So whether that's a counselor, or a trusted friend, a mentor, somebody in another organization that maybe has gone through the same things you are going through or something similar, embrace others to help you.
Yeah.
And I think, I talked about the beginning, Jesus on the road carrying the cross. As it says in scriptures, all of a sudden Simon the Cyrene helps carry the cross.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a firm believer that if Jesus really wanted to just carry his cross himself, he'd have been fine. He would have done that.
Right.
But yet he gives us a great example right there about when you're in tough situations, go ahead and allow others to help you get through it.
Yeah.
And so that's, naming it, lamenting it, and then having others help you through it, it to me is key. And I think it is all scriptural right there.
Yeah. Amen to that. I often talk with individuals about the concept of grieving over an emotion and allowing yourself to go through a process of grieving in order to, rather than stuff it in, rather than ignore it, giving yourself a process of allowing that emotion to flow through you rather than assuming that it has to be stopped or it has to be up with the box.
Yeah. Well, if you keep it bottled in, you're not helping yourself. You know that. And so by letting it out, and that's what lamenting is it's more of a scriptural word for what you're talking about, the grieving, but it's letting those emotions out.
Yeah.
And once you do that, now you have started the process. And then for all of us, don't think of, okay, I just did this in 30 seconds, I'm going to be better. Or in 2 days, I'm going to be better. Now, we don't know the time frame.
Right.
But that's okay. This is just part of the process. Let's keep that faith, knowing that when the time comes, I'm going to be ready to keep going forward.
A lot of professionals don't intentionally put things in a box. I don't think. I think we all master neglect. We move forward and we never address what's affecting us, and then the accumulation of stress acquires. And I always call stress the hidden killer, because it's the little things, as the Bible says, the little lambs left the whole lump, the little foxes spoil the vine.
Yep.
It's the little things that add up that really are the culmination of stress. I don't think it's one major impactful event that really represents stress, but wonderful, really, with regards to what you're saying, absolutely full agreement with that, is identify, find a way to flesh it out, and then find support to help with those emotions. Yeah.
Well, as you said, Larry, when you hold on to it, you're not helping yourself.
Right.
And I've seen the analogy. It's like, you and I can both take a glass of water. Okay, I'm going to take my coffee. I can hold this out in front of me. All right now, no problem. But if I keep holding that in that position, eventually my arm is going to get tired.
Right.
And I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And so we need to be able to release that stress. And one of the things that helps, if all of a sudden you're sitting next to me, guess what? You can help hold it, and this becomes a lot lighter.
That's right. Yeah. Amen.
And so I think we just need to keep sharing with as many people as possible, okay, how to be a better version of ourselves. And here is how. And not to negate or downplay emotions or the grief that happens. They're real.
Mhm.
Let's just name it, lament it, and have others help us get through it.
Yeah. The last time we talked, this is a sticky one here. It was near the end of the interview, and we talked about church damage. Someone tells you the church has damaged them, and you had a commentary on it, but I want to bring that question back up again, because I think we live in a world where there's church damage happening all around us, but it doesn't get called out. I don't know whether it doesn't get called out as much. I mean, in the day of the internet, I'm pretty sure everybody's saying that too. But in religious culture, it's taboo to talk about church hurt, church damage,
Right.
because nobody wants to talk bad about the past.
Yep, you got it. We are all imperfect human beings. And at the same time, we're all made in the image of God, Imago Dei.
Yeah.
But we are imperfect. And we are all sinners.
Yeah.
And we're going to falter. And we need to be honest with that. Excuse me. We need to say, hey, we are not perfect. I have faltered in this way. And then we also, as people, need to provide some grace, the same grace that we are allowed by God, the same grace that he feeds us each and every day. Not to excuse the wrong, not to excuse the actions or the words that have hurt others, but to say, let's name it, let's recognize it, let's be honest about it, let's be as you might, I hear people talk about being courageously authentic. Here it is. This is me. Okay. I am not perfect. However, here's where I'm going to go do some more. And I heard a great, the parable of the woman who they're getting ready to stone. And Jesus basically says, hey, those who have not sinned cast the first stone. Well, they all walk away. Yet he was very honest in his kindness back to the woman. He goes, I'm going to give you grace, but he also gives instructions. Go and sin no more. And so the key is, we as imperfect human beings need to be honest with ourselves as to what happened, honest with any organization we are a part of, and that includes churches, saying this is not right. But now let's take that, learn from it, and move forward in a better way.
Yeah, it gets complex. I always think of the stretch. I always think of the stretch spectrum as it relates to dealing with imperfect church, because no church is perfect. Every church has kinks and flaws. People are going to get damaged at some point in the church processes. But I mean, it's no different than going to work. As most pastoral ministries point out, just because you get hurt at work, does that mean you stop going to work? No, because you still want the paycheck, right? Valid argument. But to what degree does it become irreplaceable or unrepairable damage? That's the part that tinkers me. I always think of the extreme, like a pastor who says, I committed infidelity on my wife, and he admits it in front of the church. How does the church recover from that? Give me your thoughts on that. I know we're going down some weird path here.
No, it's a great question. And I think it's one that needs deep conversations. And I believe there needs to be consequences. Let me back up. Even before the consequences, needs to be the transparency. When you try to hide it, it makes it worse.
Mhm.
When you don't recognize it, it makes it worse. And then if you do nothing about it, it makes it worse. So
Mhm.
there, I believe, just like any company, any organization, any team, you need to address it not as I'm attacking an individual, I'm attacking, so to speak, or I'm going to have consequences for an action.
Mhm.
And I think this is what hurt the Roman Catholic Church. They were
Mhm.
hiding things
Mhm.
instead of addressing it
Yeah.
and putting consequences to it. And that, by not doing that, you lead yourself open for even more criticism.
Right.
And that's just one example because, as you well know, the Roman Catholic Church does not have the marketplace on wrongdoings by pastors and ministers, etc. There, you can find it everywhere.
Right.
But I believe the key is let's be transparent. And now, what are the consequences? No different. We all have consequences. And I think the same thing applies to any organization. If you've done something wrong, let's address it. Let's be transparent with it. And let's move forward. Let's make sure we're taking the right steps to move in a better direction.
Let's go even further. Let's get even weirder with this conversation.
All right.
Worse than what it is. Let's say a pastor has committed grave sin, like infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Should he be allowed to pastor again?
Great question. I my first thought, Larry, would be definitely not in the near future.
Okay.
There's got to be a process of consequences. There has to be a process for what needs to happen for that person to be, quote unquote, put back in society. And let me relate it to this. Okay. Every year we incarcerate folks with crimes,
Mhm.
correct?
Right.
Some of those incarcerations, due to the nature of the crime,
Mhm.
might only be for a week or a month.
Mhm.
And then there's a process to bring them back to society.
Right.
Okay. Some crimes are years in terms
Mhm.
of
Right.
before they're allowed back. And of course we have depending upon the situation, you taking somebody's life, well, you could either spend your entire life in prison, incarcerated, or you could be, depending on the state, of course,
Mhm.
that's a whole different conversation regarding the death penalty.
Yeah.
So when you look at, and I think this is where the conversation comes in, is churches need to say, all right, the pastor did this.
Mhm.
Okay. What would be a reasonable, you look at it from an ethical standpoint, what's the truth of the matter? What should be some consequences? How do those consequences look? What do they look like? Is this being fair? And does this reflect the character of us as people within the institution? And so that discussion needs to happen and say, okay, what would be a reasonable time frame? What steps need to happen by somebody who isn't perfect and has done wrong?
Mhm.
How do we best handle that situation? And yes, there could, just like when people are incarcerated, there's quote unquote time off for good behavior. What does that mean? They've done the right things to try to change their life around.
Mhm.
And so now you say, okay, instead of 5 years in prison, we're going to let you out in 4 because you have earned this right to come back to society. And so I think using that mindset, and I know it's not exactly the same, but I don't think it's that far off either.
Mhm.
Let's let's be honest with this, and there's some hurt and wrong, and maybe in certain situations, say, no, you've lost your opportunity to be back in this role because of the nature of what you did. Yet we're going to give you grace and we're going to help you. What can you do now as you come back? No different than, if you have an accountant that all of a sudden is embezzling,
Right.
they might never be an accountant again.
Right.
Well, let's get them back into society, and what can they do?
Yeah. This feels interesting, because I identify myself as a faith-based counselor. I come across the whole gamut of damaged individuals. One in times past, it was a situation of pedophilia, and how do I was counseling this guy, and the question is how does this guy recover back into society, let alone the church? Oh my goodness, my heart just wrenched out, because yes, he's guilty of something that is heinous and should not have been done, and it represents a very, very grotesque type of strongly condemned aspect of our cultural and legal type of societal rules. Yet this person is trying to recover from that.
Correct.
What does recovery look like in society? What does recovery look like in the church? Even, wow. Yeah. Anyway, this I know this is far deeper and broad.
But Larry, one of the things to think about is, all right, chances are that's not the only person who's ever done something like that.
Oh, absolutely right.
Okay, so now I think if they truly are recovering, maybe their role is to help those who have also done this, or to educate those who had the struggles they had early in their lives. It's a different role, but it's showing the aspect of, I've learned from this and let me help others. Yeah, does that make sense? I mean, I'm just coming off the top of my head, just thinking, okay, maybe this is how that person can help us.
Let's go further down this deep, jacked up rabbit hole that we're going down here. Do we let a person like that come back into the church for recovery?
I would ask the question, in what manner is he coming back, or they are coming back?
Let's say he's coming back as a member, a guy who is on the registry list as a child offender, a sex offender. Do we let that person back into the church?
I believe we need to have, if they are seeking that faith to amend their life, I think there should be a mechanism for coming back into the church.
Is that a conflict of interest?
Maybe not
danger to the rest of the members, right?
Yeah. And I think you got to find the right church. I think you got to find the right people, and there might have to be some prerequisites with this. So I'm going to go back. Somebody's incarcerated. When they first get out, they still have a parole officer that they are reporting to double check to make sure. Well, maybe that's part of the coming back into the church, is to, all right, you have to meet, and we need to make sure you're moving in the right pathway for you to be back. And you need to be honest and open with people, and it's going to be very transparent. Are you willing to do that? In terms of, we're not going to hide the fact. It's like, if somebody's been a sex offender, there's a sex offender registry,
right?
So people know. Now, you still might move into the community unless somebody, quote unquote, really looks it up. They might not know, but it is public knowledge.
Right. I mean, you're not around schools. You're not around certain things.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be around certain things because of it.
And using your example, if you're looking at a pedophile, well, you might be coming back to church, but we're going to have you worship in this manner instead of being a full-fledged. we're going to provide this for you. You're not going to be a youth minister. You're not going to be a youth leader. You're not going to, you know what I'm saying? We can put the prerequisites on there, but I still think we're called to grace at some point to say, all right, where are they at? And if they're at that point now where they can at least do some things, I would have a hard time saying it's no forever for the most part. There could be some situations I just haven't really thought. And what you're naming here is getting close in terms of what you've already brought up for examples. Yet maybe that's where, okay, we know there's a need for folks who have, with grievous sins, are looking to get back to God. Well, maybe there needs to be some type of church where they can attend and or they can worship. It might be a virtual worship, but they can still be pastored to.
Yeah.
So that they can move forward in their lives in that manner. It, like I said, I think sometimes we don't want to get ourselves locked into, well, if they're being church, they're physically in this church, they're physically part of the same church they always were, they physically going right back to old roles. I think we need to expand that thought process.
Yeah, it brings in a bigger, you know, me being a weird thinker, call it, the function of the church, and what is the deliverance function of the church? Is it in the building itself? Is it in the small communities that we create around our general belief systems? Home Bible studies and all those things. Where what is the epitome of ministry as it relates to the church? Because stuff like this becomes major divisive points within a church structure. Should we allow certain individuals? And then it makes the church, one of the things that I see on my end, that I find grieving in my stomach a little bit, is that church becomes this exclusive club of individuals who fit a certain criteria. And that's so prevalent.
Yep.
It's so prevalent. If you're healthy, you got a relatively healthy, stable system, you're financially stable to a degree, you can adapt to most churches. But if you're limited in those areas, boy, does finding God become twice as difficult. Don't struggle financially. Don't have a dysfunctional family structure. Don't have pending charges against you. You get what I'm saying? It's like everything that we're called to minister to sometimes get completely excluded from.
Right. Larry, you have touched on something that we probably need a few hours to dive into this one. But I will share, what is church? Church is community seeking to live the Gospels. Community searching, striving to lead themselves and helping others, with the Word of God. And it's not exclusive. And this is, and I agree with you, this is unfortunate part of you can walk into churches and you feel like a complete outsider. It's like going into that country club. It's, why are you here? You're not part of this community. Right. And to me, when you have that mindset, well, the Great Commandment says, love God, love others as yourself. The Great Commission basically says, go make disciples of all. It doesn't say only people that look like you or only people that have the exact same thought process as you. Right. Go make disciples of all. And if we, and it's the same thing with, we love God, but you got to love others as you love yourself. And then that's part of Imago Dei. We're all made in the image of God. So yes, we might not totally agree with somebody. We're still asked to love them. There's way too many examples in the Gospels. Who did Jesus went to serve sinners, went to serve the neglected, went to serve the misrepresented? You know, he didn't go to the highest people and say, I'm ministering to you. He went to the streets. He ministered to the leper. All right. And the person who is frowned upon by everybody else in society.
Yeah.
And so if we truly are looking to live a life where we are in unison to what Jesus did, what God wants us to do, then we need to be able to love all others and disciple to all. And it doesn't mean, like I said, we agree with everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to be more inclusive. And unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of studies, as you well know, Larry. One of the most segregated times in this country is Sunday mornings.
Yeah, that's a whole other hour of discussion there.
we're
The
going to be
black
on
and white churches.
We're going to be on, and I have purposely, Larry, in my life, I have shown up at churches and I am completely different from everybody else. And you can imagine some of the looks I've gotten as I've walked in and people are looking like, what are you doing here? But that's okay. I do that on purpose and it doesn't bother me. So, and then as you well know, though, you get to know people, develop relationships with people, and you find out more of the story. It can be a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think we need to challenge each other to, you know, hey, how do we help in this whole process? Boy, we got off on a tangent there, didn't we?
No, this is good. I mean, we're still stuck. We are still 100% in the vein of leadership and spirituality, which is the context of really the discussion points here. But you're a black guy, and I'm a black guy, and you're a white dude, and you can't talk. You know, dealing with some of these things here, I love to talk about the things that should get talked about. Call it the rebel in me kind of ish. Challenge the rules, challenge the, I definitely have that in me. I question it a little bit. I'm always rubbing against the board a little bit, but these are things that I know I personally struggle with. I don't like all black churches and I don't like all white churches. And I love when I see a mixture of them. I was having a conversation with my mother actually the other night. We was having a deep discussion about this. I come from a strong religious family. Since I was a kid, I've been blessed to have my experiences with God, even in my youth. And growing up into adult male, particularly in the Midwest, I got the opportunity. I was raised in a predominantly black church, and as I got to an adult, and I was pretty much, I was at a predominantly black church in Dubuque first 10 years, and then when I got out here out here in the Midwest, a little bit more immersed in predominantly white churches, because that was a predominant culture based off of the denominational type. That's what my conviction. So I got to really see these huge contrasts in leadership and cultural and style. And I try to embrace everything, but I in my internal prayer in my head, I was like, God, why are we still so segregated in 2025? Like, why does it look like this? If you look at the leaderships in a lot of in the churches and select churches, they all are predominantly black, predominantly white, and particularly but I'm not to get too caught up in my personal. But it just adds to your the language that you gave probably a couple of moments ago of church still being the most segregated hour of the day. And if there's somebody listening to this, I want to provide a semblance of hope based off of your training, your education, and your background. What advice do you give someone who is struggling with that dynamic within their within themselves, within their family system, within their church structure?
Great question, Larry. And I think, I'll give the same advice I give to a lot of people on a number of issues is, one of my handful of L's that I talk about in terms of building a foundation. My very first L is continue to learn. We would all do ourselves benefit by learning about institutions and churches included in this
Mm-hmm.
from all areas.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I all of a sudden pop in? I pop into different churches a lot on a Sunday morning. Why? Because it allows me to continue to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And part of learning, just like if you're working out, if I'm lifting weights, part of the benefit is being sore, being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you put yourself out there in that uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
situations, you actually learn. And
Yep.
and what you're probably going to learn is, wait a minute, we're all worshiping in essence the same God.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone into and I have gone into mosque, I've gone into, synagogues. We have a God and everybody has a golden rule.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Every religion, it doesn't matter what religion, there is a golden rule within their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So let's learn about that. Let's
Yeah.
learn about others. And I'm not telling people, hey, go somewhere and change your denomination or go change, but experience these new
Mm-hmm.
situations because it's going to enrich your life.
Right.
It's going to make you a better person. And even if there are some people that you walk in and they question you or, are not really nice to you, okay? Smile, welcome, say, hey, thank you for the opportunity for me to be here and learn some more about how this church worships and how this pastor is spreading the word. And I just believe if people would do that, I think it's not to change them in terms of where they might want to worship, for the majority of the time. But I think that experience can be greatly beneficial. And it's no different than that individual. If you hear people who travel overseas, they go visit a foreign
Mm-hmm.
country.
Right.
What's one of the statements that always comes out when they get back? They will say, they were more like us than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from my experiences in being involved and going to a lot of different churches, I could say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They are more like us than you would one would even think. Not exactly the same, but there are more similarities than there are differences.
Yeah. 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 That is a beautiful thing within diversity is that there's a lot of commonality even amongst the perception of diversity.
Right. It's funny you bring diversity up here because I'm actually adjuncting at for a small private school here in La Crosse, Viterbo University. I'm teaching a management course, and we talked about DEI programs within businesses.
Yeah.
And I basically said I want to try to I reframed the initials DEI to ale, and I'm not talking about the beer. But if you think about, diversity is the A would be acknowledge. Acknowledge we have differences.
Right.
Acknowledge, you're black, I'm white. Okay. I acknowledge that. I can recognize that. I acknowledge the differences.
Mm-hmm.
The L stands for learn.
Mm-hmm.
Learn about each other. Take time to know more of the story. The E would be engage. Engage in the conversations, engage in all of us helping to make this ourselves better and make the world better. And if we simply would just look at this as acknowledging
Mhm.
the differences, learning about the differences, learning about each other
Yeah.
and what makes everybody tick, and then engaging so that we're all part of the process to make the world better. I think you're actually doing the work of DEI.
Yeah, I agree. Um, if people are willing to do that work, there's a lot of stuff in between that causes people to disconnect from that.
Yep.
Egos, the biases, even nationalistic type of behavior.
Yep.
Uh, even from my end of the stick there, I was like, oh, it sounds nice until you get sick and tired of doing it. When it's a one-way street, I was telling a good colleague of mine, I was talking about an issue. I'm not going. I should get too far because I'll be putting people out there. When I said I am not, this is not an uncommon sort of, particularly in Black professionals. This is not an uncommon statement behind the scenes here. So let me pull you in here into some secrets. Let me pull you behind the veil here. What us Black professionals talk about sometimes. We say to ourselves, it is not my job to educate you on
Yep.
diversity, about my culture. I'm not going to educate you on what you're doing wrong. You figure it out for yourself. We get to this point because we feel like we're always engaging in this, and we always feel like it's a one-way street. Now, that's just one side of it. I understand that
I,
there's two sides to every coin.
no, I think you're 100% right. And we need to learn, okay? But I think there's ways of doing that where it becomes a mutual respect in
Right.
learning as opposed to, as you termed it, the one-way street. It can't be a one-way street because, as you well know, no relationship is built on a one-way street. It's always a two-way street. And when you create an environment where it's two-way streets, then I think there's a beauty in there. When it's a one-way street, it's just a headache.
In a predominantly white society, there'll always be the temptation for there to be a one-way street. And not that
Yep.
we're in a predominantly white society, but in the Midwest,
Yep.
we can for sure say that it's predominantly white. Particularly in the Midwest, in the
Yep.
upper Midwest. A lot easier to say down south as transition, a lot easier to say in more diverse areas where it's like 50-50, where it's
Great.
50% black, 50%
Yep.
white people. It's a lot easier to have that mutual engagement. The problem, this is a way bigger conversation, but the problem in predominantly white areas is there's no necessity for the average white Caucasian to want to engage in that mutual type of respective space, not unless they're really trying to enhance their lives in that type of way. We're in a more diverse cultural society where everybody's got internet access, everybody's got access to culture. So there is that desire, I would imagine, amongst everybody to become more broadly
Yep.
educated because it only benefits their global connection.
Yep.
But there's that piece there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And there's ways to educate yourself without, you're 100% right. Technology has allowed us,
Mhm.
all right, the opportunity. The problem comes in, and this is where I seek to educate students, is don't go to one source for all your information.
Mhm.
You need to open your eyes to a lot of different people if you truly want to continue learning. And so and to me, you talked about, okay, I've had some great opportunities in my life where I've learned things that maybe others who haven't taken the time have not learned yet.
Mhm.
And so I need to be a voice to others who probably look a lot like me
Mhm.
and say, hey, wake up. Let's learn a little bit more. This can help you. And so it's not coming from somebody who is saying, if I'm black and saying that, they're going to look at me, oh yeah, you're just trying to, indoctrinate us or whatever the case may be, however they want to look at it. And no, I've looked just like you, but here's how you can do this better. And I think we need more people who have the courage to say, let's do this better. Let's make a difference. And so I know we're kind of gone off, but I still think that's leadership, because leadership, the relationships are built because you take time to learn about each other. You learn and you pay attention, and you learn not only through words. I learn, I can see and hear with my eyes as well as I can my 2 ears. I got 2 of both of them, thankfully. And so pay attention.
As far as one final question, and again, this is going towards the audience, let's say, there's someone out there, a potential leader, who's looking at this information. They know that you're an expert in leadership and in spirituality, and they're looking on advice on how to best navigate their space. What do you think are some steps that they can take towards their personal growth as far as becoming a young or more mature leader? What does that look like? What does growth look like? Is the maturity, leadership in the Midwest? And let's say we're capping it off in the Midwest.
Okay. Great question. And matter of fact, I was just in a meeting where we were talking about this. Young people might have a better concept of this than definitely someone my age and through the years. If you're looking to think of all the great athletes in the world. What do they all have? They have a coach. A coach that is helping them be better. You want to be a great leader? Have a mentor. Have somebody, and it's worth the investment. It's worth the time. An investment could be a combination of dollars, could be, and just simply time. But have a mentor, a coach that you meet with on a regular basis that is helping you navigate your journey, your pilgrimage as you go forward. And to me, I think the more people that would be willing to have that person in their lives, the better off we're going to be, the better off they are going to be by having someone they go to on a very consistent basis. It doesn't have to be every day, by no means. Doesn't have to be every week. All right. You might start that way, but having that person you meet with on a regular basis that is helping you, all right, who has the knowledge to be able to look at it from a 10,000-foot view, along with walking side by side with you to help you get to a better place. And I think the more people who would invest in that resource, the better off we're going to be.
I agree. Mike, it was a pleasure talking with you again.
Larry, always a pleasure with you. We could keep going for hours. I know that, but I love every minute, every second I get to spend in conversation with you. I know you helped me become a better person.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, this is a good conversation. It's always good to communicate and talk with genuine spirits, which is probably my underlying goal with regards to this. Is how do we create genuine conversations with diverse people of diverse backgrounds and experiences. So I appreciate your energy and what you brought to this. There will probably be a part 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 10 if you'll allow it, because I'm a huge fan of coaching, spirituality, and leadership. Like that's right up my alley with regards to even my own personal background. So I've got plenty of questions for you if you got the time. So
always, Larry, I'll always make time for you, man.
I work with you. All right. Till next time, my brother.
Peace and blessings.
Yes, same to you, sir. Bye now.
Bye.